works, right? When it goes live?
I assume so.
In theory?
I'm not really sure how this is going to work. So, can I do? Okay, is that me here in echo? Or is that you?
I don't know why you'd hear me echo.
That's me. I have another window open.
Still not seeing the live. Oh, there it is. Maybe?
Okay, yeah. Is that me here in echo? Or is that you?
I don't know why you'd hear me echo.
I'm going to go with you.
Now, yeah, I just opened the window. Let's shut the sound off there. Wow, that is delayed like by 30 seconds, maybe?
Yeah, I'm not sure why. I had, well, it's giving me all kinds of complaining. All right, let's, I guess we'll give a couple more minutes to drop something in Slack and see if anybody wants to join. All right. People funnel in. So,
Communities.
What's that?
Communities.
All right, we'll get started. We'll pretend like there's folks here. If there's folks online, drop in, say hi. We are, this is an activity that is listed inside of that.us every 2 weeks. This is our sprint planning time. We wanted to make sure we turned it on and got it recorded on YouTube as well. So we're kind of live streaming this and doing that. So some people may pop in and out. First time here, my name's Clark. On the other side of the screen with me is Brett. And I don't know what sprint number this is. Probably like we do 2 a month. This is our 10th, maybe.
Good enough.
Into building that.us, and we're getting ready to go through and rebalance the work, review what we did, and get the board set up and all that. So how's that sound, Bretsky?
Sounds good.
All right. I'll start with just sharing my screen, and you jump in and So since we're doing this on the lives, we've got lots of new buttons.
Too many buttons. And that delay is crazy.
I am, okay, when I share, okay, that works like I want it to work. Cool.
Yeah.
Wasn't really sure how that was gonna go down. Can I do this too then? No. Anyways, all right. So the theme of this sprint, as you know, but for those who are playing along, oh, I hate your phone.
Where's my mute? Which window is it in?
Yeah. Is this not the right size? Oh, it is. Okay. Lots of little things going on here. The theme of this, kind of up into the sprint, we've been working through getting the activity sorted out and some notifications. In the last sprint, we were working through directly. We were working through kind of the new user notifications. So when a user comes on and their nurturing experience. And now we are in this past 2 weeks, we've been full out into what we're calling communities, but this is kind of profile pages. So communities, members, companies. I've been focused on the front. Bretsky's been focused on the back. Let's go through what I got added. We've had this members page since the beginning, but it linked back to thatconference.com, and we've wanted to get it pulled over to that.us as well. And so that's been done. The thing that we have come to realize is that all of these pages are really one and the same. So if I was to go to my profile directly, this is the slug that the users have been entering all along. We're taking their public information if their profile is public, and overlaying it here. So we have the name, you'll see this member spotlight. We'll also have community spotlight. So we've got the description, the links, their interests, if they put a life hack in, and these things, some of these go in and out if there's nothing there.
What happens if they're not public? Does it 404?
Right now it just goes to a blank page. That's a bug. Which, let's get that. Just what is that? Project. Need like a new sprint planning now. I'll sync these up. Where did it go? All right, new. Should we get a message or just redirect to members?
I would just 404, right? Because that means they'd be entering the URL directly. It wouldn't be linked from anywhere. If they're not public, they're not going to be on the members page. They're not going to be shown on the activities. So I would just return the 404, in my opinion.
That works. No public profile or
what is that called? Is public? What is it? Can't feature.
okay. That gets displayed. There's no limit to these interests. And then we have their upcoming activities. So you added the back end to enable sessions on the member. Yes, we had it in the schema, but we didn't have it in fulfilling itself. So we have the upcoming sessions. I stayed with the theme that we've been rolling with for a while now. These boxes, it'll show up to 6. If you were to hit the middle, if there's an expansion, it'll expand, and then outside of that, it'll take you directly to the activity itself. I guess the next key thing to this will be if you don't have any. So if we were to come over to Tyler here, doesn't have any, leaving it blank is kind of silly. So future state, either show past or just remove this whole section altogether. But that's not in yet.
Isn't it if it's him that's logged in, then it shows a plus sign card to add a new one or something?
No, I didn't put that here because I thought that would be confusing to what the context of what you're adding it to, but that is on the communities.
Oh, okay.
I've got the this little call to action. He doesn't have any badges, so there's no badges showing up. Where is mine? Got all the badges. Down the road, that should link to, your badge where you can manage your badges. I'm missing a section in here, and now it's slipping my mind as to what it is.
Interests?
No, that's up here. Oh, a listing of the communities and the people who follow you. So the people who follow you that is another section that is seen here, but is not being shown. Hey, Scott. And so that would show up down here. It'll look like it does on the communities. And then, and since we don't have the follow, the same would be true for whatever communities. So Scott, we're just doing a review right now of the stuff we got in. He looks lost.
That's fine. I'm just here to have some human companionship, even if virtual.
So that's the member. If you come over to communities, okay, so then in members as well, all of these got wired up across the site. So no matter where you are, they're now hooked to the right things. So that should be seen everywhere. And you can see actually Lydia's got one in there. Actually, hers is going on right now. So communities, I don't have the listing page. Oh, right, because it's locally. So let's pretend this was communities Node.js. You could take it here. Similar in nature, and this is the piece we just kind of got finished on the back end. So here's the community. Oh, I forgot to mention, here's the follow and a share. The share simply copies. That's on the member too, copies the URL. Here would be the follower section. That's also on the other, but I don't have any followers. I left it stubbed here. And then same type of section for the sessions, upcoming sessions, or upcoming activities. There isn't any right now because we just got the back end in there. If you click on this, because I'm logged in, I'm kind of making a faux card that you could create. I guess it's not super. Now looking at it when you're logged in, it's not as clear.
I thought I remember seeing like a big plus sign or something before.
That's if you're logged out. So now if I go to...
Maybe you do that if you hover over it, you switch it over to the plus sign.
I'll dig on that.
Yeah, type it so we can all see it.
You don't just ask your local spam provider. Okay, I will. And page. So that's that, and we'll start blowing out those sections now that I got the back end. I actually have already started that. And then we'll get a listing page like we did for the members. It'll have all the communities and their logos. Other than that, we fixed this nav bar, had a problem where it was getting cut off on the iPad. That got fixed. We got the message at the bottom wasn't overlaying right with competing with Tiddlio, Tito. What else did we do? Now I need to reference my notes.
Were those pushed out yet, the release notes?
Yeah, I guess I could have just gone there, huh? What else did we do? Thanks for letting me know what I built.
That's the 24th. That's the wrong release.
That's the 24th. That's the wrong release. That's is that because didn't merge it yet?
Is it still on your local machine?
No, I just didn't merge it. Oh, you haven't even approved it.
Oh, so it's my fault. Yeah.
That's all right. We'll just go. I'll just pull up the stage. All right. What else? Yeah. So this is the first sprint we started using the GitHub stuff. So we do have a milestone that ended today, or will end. I'll close it out in a bit. The getting started that got added to the nav. We'll talk about that here in a second. When a user shares an activity, we change the color to border. Yep, that's the share. When you share now, it goes red. We did some admin updates. We're obviously, I don't know if it's obvious, but we're streaming from our meeting now to YouTube. We had a bug around the sponsors. Hacktoberfest kicked off, so we've taken some adders or some PRs from that. And then we spent a bunch of time in package updates, which all the majors and minors, except for one, which is the GraphQL. That needs to be updated to version 1, which is a change. They changed the way it fundamentally works. So let's see. Outside of that, Pretsky, the backend, we got the user nurturing. So we do essentially we do this. So when a user logs in, or when they sign up, we have this kind of two-step process between Auth0 and our own backend. So in Auth0 is your username and password, but your profile is in our database, or the rest of your profile, if you will, is in our database. So now we didn't really have a way before to follow up. So now you get triggered in a campaign, if you will, and we check the status of whether or not you've completed your profile. We'll send you a couple emails to remind you if anywhere during that process you have, we trigger that you have completed it. That then puts you into a new user automation where we walk you through a series of steps that welcome you to that.us, teach you how to join, teach you what some of our nomenclature is, and guide you through, I don't know, kind of a 5-week journey, I guess, an email a week. We've got a few people that are going through right now. We've asked for some feedback just to see how to like it, what we could work better on with that. So that got implemented about a week ago, got about mid-sprint. It's kind of fallout from the last.
I actually forgot about it.
Yeah. So that's kicking. And then you've been working through the API on the back end and getting the notion of a community abstracted a level higher so that we've had this notion of community, which had events, but now we have, and events had sessions, but now we have, when we say sessions, we're kind of using sessions and activities synonymously with one another, because we're not going to rename the back end, but an activity can fall across multiple communities, and they fall within inside an event. So we did some database graph restructuring to support that. That's there now, so that we can start building the community creation page. We can start getting now we can get a community onboarded. Once I have the community page wired up to the API and I have the community listing page wired up to the API, then we've got a few folks who want to kind of jump in, and we'll get their user groups on, and they'll be kind of the first ones to help us suss out the rest of it. So anything else to add to that, Bratsky?
I don't think so.
All right, I'm going to look back now at what we threw in. Community landing page.
Since we're in October, are we going to start a new project, or are we going to continue with the same one?
I'm going to rename this one because we've got the stuff in milestone. So let's see. Surface the notion of a community, not just events. We're working through that right now. Create activities. Should be aware of the event they're submitting for. We got to sort that out. Session details should show what event they're part of or community they're part of. Yep, we've got to add that. That board should take activities across. Yep. Breakout activity, auto post in the chat. Add as a sub to a parent, auto, now, auto create name, but let creator update it. I have no freaking, breakout activities. Yeah, we didn't do that. Different starting points of an activity video post. Yep, that's down the road. Ability for the community Vanguard to create their own events in the system. Yep. Shortlist, badges created. Yep, we got to get back on badges. Communications to groups. Yep. Close group, turn on waiting room. Yep. We're going to start talking about graph on Wednesday. Notifications coming. Follow, very much coming. And drag follow over here. Follow, notifications. Introduce the ad card. Yeah. Copy email. Copy into emails. Yeah. Report needs to query all sessions across community events. Yeah. Okay. Kind of a mismatch of things.
I guess this next sprint's going to be the following sprint.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, we've got to get a community onboarded.
Right.
We've got to get follow down. We've got to get the query for an activity needs to pull across all communities, right? Right now we're just pulling from an event.
The what for an activity needs to go across all communities?
Right now, the main board, when you go to WAC activities, it pulls from that.us.
Right.
From that activity, that event. I'm sorry, that event, that community. But now we want the main board to pull across anything.
So it would, okay.
I don't know if we rework the name a bit, not the name, but the types that we're searching by.
Well, the types as far as open space, you mean that type?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll have to go directly against the sessions API to get the list now instead of going through events or communities, because it's kind of flipped on its head, right? You want everything, and then you're going to relate those back to the communities that it's tagged to and the event that it's a part of.
Right. But then an event, which we have now too. So.
Well, that's more, the event, quote unquote, is more just like a scheduled filter view, if you will. Right? So main that event, other community event.
Yeah. Yeah, I think all this is fine. It's just us getting that board, and then then it's the link through to the same. It's all really the same. It's just what data do we shove into the frame. So
All right, all totally doable. I was just kind of thinking through it.
yeah. So really the next 2 weeks are finishing off the community page, like the listing in the community page, getting it linked to the right event. So if you even just take ourselves, us being our own community, us linking it to the events that we have or have had, and then being able to click through and see that stuff. Obviously keeping the main board still there. Following, showing the followers.
I think another big piece that we'll have to tackle is the slugs. So we wanted to make a master slug collection to manage slugs and tags across everything so there's no duplicates. Or is that premature for this next sprint?
No, because we need to be able to look them up. No, I don't think it is, because how we got to follow them.
Yeah, but follow is different. I mean, in a way, it's different.
Sure, but if a slug changes, now the following.
Well, the good part about that is no slugs can be changed except for by admins right now.
Right, but the reference between them can be, if it's going to be, if the name, the slug is the index, which I don't know that it should be or not. I'm not trying to get an implementation, but we need to make sure that if it was to be changed, that its references don't break.
Right. Yeah, I'm almost wondering if we should write a function to manage that table.
Everything's a function.
Excuse me?
Everything's a function.
I meant Firestore function.
Oh, I
You
guess.
did with voting. So, like on the sessions collection, if the slug happens to update, then it goes and manages that update in that other table type of a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just a thought I was thinking of earlier today. Nice. Yeah.
Yes.
I completely derailed the conversation.
No, I'm actually gonna switch to Scott for a minute, because part of this is getting feedback from others. And Scott, you you had a 3D printing session on, and I know we found that we had some troubles with you were in I was gonna say Firebase,
It
but
was in Firefox, yeah.
Firefox. Yeah. I'm just curious, any feedback? I mean, that's outside of that thing. It was the first. I don't know if that was the first time you really used it or not, but in that capacity.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't really given a session since we did the online thing in August. But yeah, the Firefox thing was the only thing. The missing mouse cursor and then the screen freezed repeatedly. But then we switched to Chrome and we didn't have any issues. So that was an interesting and good test, I guess, to know that Firefox seems to have issues for some reason.
I assume your Firefox is at latest.
I don't know.
Did we open up any issue on that or anything? So we have something.
Upgrading is the devil. You should never upgrade ever. Let's see here. If I go, how do I find out what version I'm in? No, it's not in help. Oh, maybe it's, oh, there it is. It is in help. I'm running 81.0. I don't have no idea if that's the most current version or not. Probably isn't. I have no idea. Firefox.
It was on Windows too, right?
Yeah, I'm on Windows.
I assume Windows 10.
Yep. Actually, I'm running the open source leaked hacked version of Windows. What was it? Windows 95, Windows 7, whatever it was. Yeah, that one. I don't see how to tell what the current version is for Firefox. I don't see it on their website.
It changes weekly, right? So as long as we know what it was when you had the issue, we can go from there if we need the data for troubleshooting or whatever.
Yeah, version. What did I say? 81. Is that what I said?
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I've got is 81. I don't know how Firefox gets updated. Oh, it prompts you, doesn't it? It says updates available, doesn't it? I think Firefox does that. When you open it, it prompts you and says there's an update available. And I don't see that, so maybe I am running the most recent version.
Well, you run a community, don't you? Well, you run the high school thing, or you run a community as well?
Well, Conquer has a very large user community. It depends on what you call a community. I mean, the Conquer, the game exists because of people have built friendships and relationships. And I mean, I guess some got married and had kids, but that's a very vocal, and sometimes it trends towards toxic, although I think we've addressed all the toxicity issues with community in Conquer. Why? Why do you ask if I
was just kind of curious because bringing this now into the next stage, now that communities is kind of built out and wanting to add different groups of people, just some thoughts around that, or if you've thought about it, or we're going to add something like that.
So my whole soapbox around community is around toxicity and abuse. And so I've given several talks. In fact, that was a core part of my talk at that conference thing. I think you might have said in it as how to deal with the issues that come up with abuse and keeping bad people out of the conversation, or weaning them out of the conversation if you can't change their behavior. But yeah, the robotics community is also a very large and robust community. Both we use Slack for the team stuff, and there's only 50 kids on the team, so it's not like it's a huge community. But there's also the state of Minnesota has done a pretty good job of having. There's a Slack for mentors and students and alumni, Anybody who wants into the Slack can get in the Slack for the robotics community. And then the mentors are holding monthly Zoom calls just so the mentors from different teams can share, this is what we're trying to do, this is what we're struggling with. So there's community stuff around that. But none of those really do training or skill sharing. I mean, the robotics, our team will have to do that this year, but we still haven't quite figured that out.
Sorry for the silence, thinking.
We spent, I know that Clark and I have talked about this, but I spent the first half of this year putting together a new forums for Conquer. We had used a forums called IP Vision Board. And we had that from very early days, like 2013, probably 2013 until 2007, 18. We had 50,000 posts in our forums over those 5 years. And I had to shut it down because the forums were disconnected from your user accounts because it was a third-party product. And at one point we had paid for a PHP developer to build an authentication link between the forums and the account. And then they upgraded the forum software, which broke the authentication, so nobody could sign in. And I just finally had to disable it. So because the forums weren't tied to your actual user account in Conquer, we couldn't manage abuse. We couldn't stop people from coming in there and claiming they were somebody they weren't, or coming in there anonymously and just trolling the shit out of other people with no repercussions in the game. It had email authentication or verification as part of the forums, but we couldn't stop the Russian spammers. They would come in, they'd sign up for an account, and they would just post gobs and gobs and gobs of Russian spam. There were some spam controls in there, and it just didn't work. And so by the time it was all done and I finally gave up and turned it off, I think a third of all the content in the forums was Russian spam because we just couldn't stay ahead of it. So in January, or maybe it was in December, I found an open source project, which was a forums. It was in .NET, which is ASP.NET Core, which is the platform I build in for my website. So I started going through his open source code, and he said that he was part of the MSDN and TechNet forums at Microsoft. So he had experience. He knew how to build high volume forums and features and stuff like that. So as my platform, the guy seemed to have some credibility or claim credibility. So I started going through his open source code, and I started trying to bring his code into Conquer and make it part of the platform so I could tie the user accounts together. I ended up rewriting almost all of his code. The only thing that actually still exists from his code is about half of the UI. His UI layout was pretty good, so I kept most of the HTML that he did. But I had to completely rewrite his entire service layer, his entire repository layer. It was terribly inefficient. It was he hit the database for the same data 3 or 4 times in one request.
Did you re-release that as open source?
No, I didn't. So I basically I looked at his code, and I looked at it as a sort of a reference of, oh, that sort of makes sense how you would organize this data. But for the most part, I ended up building it from scratch effectively because it occurred to me that, I thought, this guy's from Microsoft. How could he have written code that's so poorly inefficient? And it occurred to me that, he's from Microsoft. He doesn't have to pay for his database. So it doesn't matter how many times he hits it. He'll just get somebody to pay for a bigger database, more DTUs. So, and then I didn't know, I also ended up restructuring how he was managing the relationships. Like, you can't keep track of every topic somebody's read. That's just silly. I mean, you're keeping track of hundreds of thousands of records of somebody read this topic. That's just, that doesn't make sense to do that. So it was a good sample. I looked at it, and it got me started, but in the end, I ended up just building my own forums. It took about 3 or 4 months. but I'm glad I've got it. It's going to take a while for people to really start spending more time in there. Right now, I still don't have anywhere near the traffic I used to have in the old forums, because the old forums was gone for about a year, and people just got used to that's not part of my daily activity, and so they don't go there as much as they used to. But the new forums is there. The other thing that I did since I started from scratch with the forums is that every post and every comment on that post has a scorecard for what I call the community building. It's basically how good are you? How nice it's like, I call it the community builder score. So it's like, did this post help or hurt the community? So every single post and every single comment has this scorecard, and it's based off of 8 categories. I'll just bring it up. Forums. So every single post has the ability to kind of thumbs up, thumbs down it. So the categories are: this was spam, this was trolling, this was vulgar, this was bad manners. All 4 of those hurt your community builder score, and they hurt you by different amounts. So spam, I think, is -2, and trolling is -1, and vulgar is -0.5, and bad manners is -0.5 or something like that. And then there's a thumbs down of I disagree, thumbs up I agree, this was funny, or this was helpful or educational. And the educational ones are +2, and this was funny is plus 1.5, and I agree with this is +1, and the I disagree is +0.5. And the disagree is still a positive, because as long as it's not bad manners or vulgar or trolling, it's positive for the community to voice different points of view, even if people don't agree, as long as they do it the right way. So anyway, every single post basically organically grows this. This was a good for the community, this was bad for the community score. And then in the forum preferences, every post that is below 40% positive is automatically hidden. And so you don't see those posts. And you can go in as a user and you can say, I want normal view, or you can up it and say, I only want to see the things that are most positive, and that's an 80% positive. So anything that's sort of controversial, it just doesn't even show up. And then if you want to see the shit in the basement where the trolls are, that's under 40% positive, you have to turn that on to say, show me everything. And the next time you log in, it gets reset back to the default. So it's a temporary view. And the reason I did this, and I've got lots of anecdotal evidence to show that this works, is that the people that are the most abusive and they do the most trolling, they spend an hour writing a thesis about why somebody sucks or why something sucks or why this is terrible. And they spend a lot of time writing this really vulgar rant about how terrible things are. And like I said, I have anecdotal evidence that this works, is that if you're going to invest that kind of time to try to get your point across about how terrible something is, you're not going to do it if within 10 minutes of it being posted, it's going to be hidden from most users. And so you'll restructure your comments, and you'll start asking questions instead of making accusations. So you'll start offering suggestions instead of just bitching about something as being bad. And you can still get your same point across, but it encourages people to structure that in a constructive way rather than just a way that tears down the community. So anyway, that was a big part of the rewrite. I basically, because I wanted that to be core to the forums, I basically started over to make that integral to everything in the forums.
So we need that on Stack Overflow.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? I mean, just think about newspaper comments, right? Every freaking newspaper should have this, where because you know better than to ever read the comments in a newspaper. But if every single post comment on a newspaper had a community builder score, then you could actually go into the newspaper and read the comments and maybe get some value out of it. Anyway, I don't know. That's probably not where you were trying to go with your questions about how do I deal with community, but the forums is what
I'm going to keep that in the back of my head, because it's definitely somewhere where I feel we're going to end up. As we integrate our communication like slapping all.
I mean, you guys have, that conference has done such a good job of curating the right kind of audience, the right kind of communication structure, because you have that face-to-face type of interaction with your first, basically your first point of contact is face-to-face, and you can set the theme of how things work right from the start. You have a huge advantage in having a community that's going to come in mostly positive. In my world, I mean, I'm in one of the most toxic worlds there is of gaming. And so without structure built into the system, things just go off the rails so quickly. So the first piece of advice I got around community was years ago. I went out to Seattle to talk to Microsoft. And I met with a game developer out there who was building games for Android and iOS and Windows. And there was a husband and wife team that used to work at Microsoft. They started building a game, and then they left Microsoft because they were making enough money that they could run their own business. Anyway, she asked me, she said, "Do you have chat?" And I said, "No, not yet, but I really want to get chat." And she goes, "No, you don't. You don't want chat. You don't want chat." And then she said, "Well, you need chat, but you got to do it the right way." And so she warned me about, do not introduce chat, and she introduced structures to penalize people that behave badly in chat. And so we have an entire abuse structure with chat as well. And we have an entire abuse structure around private messages. And if you behave badly enough, initial penalties are temporary. If you do it enough or do it long enough times or for long enough times, then eventually you just don't get access to chat, or you just don't get access to private messages anymore.
Which makes sense. Where do you want to go with this next, Clark, with planning?
I want to make sure you're kind of queued up where you need to be. Right now, I've got a few big things. If I switch back over to,
I saw you changing stuff on the board there.
yeah, I was trying to do all the. So I renamed this column to our next sprint. I put a bonus and then just a silly backlog, but I've got to get the community pages sorted out, wired up to the back end. We need to get
list as well, right?
What's that?
The community list page as well.
Yeah. That's both of them. I need. So that's the short term, and then it gets in the follow, which I think is really easy for me, but you haven't got started on any of that.
I'm sorry, I missed that. It was too loud in here. Could you say that again?
The following piece. So I don't know that it's overly complicated, but until we can't get in notifications, I mean, we need to have a conversation about what notifications mean and activity and all that. But until we can follow, there's not, I don't know who to notify. And that starts to tie together people to communities to all of that. So I think it makes sense for you to, I'm sure we're going to have to change the community stuff around. I'm sure we'll find a few things that we need to touch, refactor now that we just got that API stuff in and I'm starting to wire up to it.
Expected though. Yeah,
totally. So I think you getting in on, that's interesting. It doesn't work. Is that here maybe? You getting in on ahead a bit on the following, then I can wrap that in, and then we get in back into kind of meet at notifications, I guess.
Do we want to tackle following tags or just I mean, initially, should we start with communities and other people? We already have sessions.
I'd start with communities and people. I don't know how we would. I think we can achieve the following of tags. So the big piece for me with the notifications will be updating really updating the profile information, because that's where we're gonna have to do all the management of like, how do you want to be notified? What, when, the digests, all that kind of stuff. So, I think, from an interest perspective, we could come up with something creative around these are the things that you showed us interest and surface them without you like explicitly following. Just have to watch the signal to noise ratio. But I'd start with the people thing and then us curating a bit of a feed based on that. So now the board changes a little bit more. Maybe you're going to see or filter out things that you can filter out. I don't know. So yeah, start with follow for sure. I got to get this community stuff finished or further. We've got to get, we're going to spend some time getting somebody onboarded. So we need a profile, a community create page that at least we have access to.
Well, for the first one, we don't need that, but if we get to it, great.
Yeah. I guess the other.
So, I mean, with the community though, right? So you just said with the create page, right now, does the whole moderator or who can update the community page and stuff? And I'm thinking that probably will be a future sprint.
Yeah.
Coming on, but I'm sure, still not exactly sure what that means or who that will be.
Right. And another piece of this will be, because I know it's hot for one, is we're going to need to get the company page up that has, not just their job listings, but places they want to go, the things they want to give away, their own merit badges, those things. So